Keep moving along.
I liked him very much. Actually, he's the great Matt Lewis. His friends call him the great Matt Lewis. We do too.
Actually,
in his recent column, he wrote about a disturbing trend in the blogosphere, and he said this, quote, political bloggers are becoming a sad reflection of our bitter and broken political system. In general, too many partisans view their political opponents as actually being more dangerous than serial killers. Oh, Matt. You once again engage in reckless hyperbole. Okay, tell us about the poll first on the conservative side, and then we'll take on liberal bloggers. Go ahead.
Gotcha. Well, sadly, this is actually true. What happened is a blogger named John Hawkins, who writes for Right Wing News, that's the name of his blog. He's also a columnist at townhall.com, where I used to write. He actually decided to poll about 43 conservative bloggers and have them list the worst figures in American history. And you might not be surprised to see, or maybe you would be surprised to learn, that the top three were actually Jimmy Carter.
Like Charles Manson? Charles Manson is number one, or what? Who are they?
That's actually the unfortunate part, is that people like Charles Manson and Jeffrey Dahmer did not make the list, but some Democrat politicians like Barack Obama, Jimmy Carter, and even FDR were at the top of the list of the worst figures in American history.
Yeah, I can see why. After all, FDR just guided us through World War II and helped us defeat the Nazis. Mark McKinnon, we're going to get to the liberals in a second here, but Mark McKinnon, what is it that gets some of these people on the extremes on the left and the right so disconnected from reality? You saw it when you worked in the Bush White House. They made movies called The Assassination of George W. Bush, compared him to Hitler, and now Obama's getting it from the right. Why are these people so disconnected from reality? Why do they hate so much?
It's so disappointing, so frustrating, Joe. We spend a lot of time in Washington, and we hear this, we hear it in the media, but then you go to Austin, Texas, or Colorado, where I spend a lot of time, and 90% of the people totally disagree with everything they're hearing and seeing in Washington. The extremism that we see, the fringe element that surfaces and gets such a large microphone is dominating the debate in Washington, and people feel homeless in terms of representation, because there's no representative democracy in Congress or in the media that's reflecting where most people are in middle America today. So there's a huge disconnect, and people are hungry for something that's really reflects their opinion and where they live in America, but they don't. They feel homeless
right
now.
There.
And the thing is, sometimes I'll have people on Twitter go, boy, I bet you're upset that so many people hate you. Actually, you know what? I like the fact that I've been doing this show for 3 years, and it doesn't matter whether a liberal comes up to me or a conservative come up to me. They hug me, they thank you, and then they say, we're scared. And I always say the same thing. We've got them outnumbered. Sane, rational liberals and conservatives have the crazies outnumbered, and we're going to be just fine. But Matt, let's go to the left now. Yeah. You also brought up a liberal blogger, a prominent liberal blogger whom I follow, and something that he said.
Right, Matthew Iglesias, who works for the Center for American Progress, used to be a blogger for The Atlantic, actually, and he blogs at a place called Think Progress. And he essentially was in a Twitter conversation, which can be very dangerous, with a couple of conservative bloggers, and basically made the argument that advocates should lie, that because the other side lies too, lying is okay. I don't want to misquote him here. So he says, I think fighting dishonesty with dishonesty is sometimes the right thing for advocates to do. Joe, I think ultimately the problem I have with both of these two things converging really on the same day, on last Friday, is that if you believe that, well, first of all, bloggers are important, bloggers are powerful. We saw that Robert Gibbs even, was so frustrated by liberal bloggers, he called them the professional left. So obviously they do influence politicians. But if you believe that your political adversaries are enemies of the state worse than, say, Charles Manson, you're going to be willing to do whatever it takes to beat them, if that means bending the rules, if that means putting principle aside, or even if it means lying, as Matthew Iglesias thinks is perfectly fine to do.
It's right out of Saul Alinsky's playbook. You know, this is, I want to underline really quickly before we go, Mark McKinnon, I want to underline the fact that Americans are with you and me and Matt Lewis, 3 Republicans, I think Matt's a Republican, a conservative guy. I don't think they let leftists